Sup guys, it's Alex here, and welcome to the second bracketology update of this 2020-2021 college basketball season. We had a chaotic first week of college basketball. We had number 3 Villanova losing to Virginia Tech, and I can't remember, it was like the 2K Classic or something like that. Then we had number 4 Virginia falling to San Francisco in a huge upset. Then we also had number 10 Kentucky, my Kentucky Wildcats, falling at home to Richmond, and as you can see, Richmond is now up to an 8 seed because of it. But it was just a crazy week of college basketball to start off. I mean, also Kansas lost to Gonzaga, which I mean is a top 10 loss, but I mean that was to be expected. Gonzaga is the number 1 team in the AP poll. So looking at the bracket after this first week, we have Richmond moving up to the 8 seed, as I mentioned, after they beat Kentucky. LSU falling down to a 9. Ohio State, almost at Iowa State. Ohio State up to a 5, Chicago down to a 12, UCLA down to a 7. I mean, it took like 3 overtimes to beat. I want to say it was like Pepperdine or some really small school. UCLA is not looking too good so far this season. Then we have Memphis falling down to a 10. They lost to Western Kentucky. Iowa is now up to a 2, where Luka Garza just had a tremendous first half. I can't remember who they ended up facing, but I think it was on Saturday. He had like 35 points in the first half without missing a single shot. It was just absolutely crazy. And we have Akron new to the field as a 15. Then over in Region 2, we have Virginia Tech new to the field as the 9 seed. As I mentioned, they did beat Villanova. And we have Creighton down to a 4, Illinois down to a 3, UConn down to a 10, Houston up to a 2. They had a pretty big win over Texas Tech this past weekend, and then UC Irvine down to a 15. Then over there in Region 3, we have Duke now up to the 1 line, taking the spot of Virginia, who did fall down to the 3 seed, as you can see. Then we have St. Louis up to an 8, Alabama down to a 9, Kentucky down to a 4, Arizona State down to a 6, Purdue down to an 11, Liberty up to a 14. They were in a playing game for the 16 seed, but they've been looking pretty good so far. But then we have San Diego State now up to a 7, Providence down to a 10. Then over there in Region 4, we have Eastern Washington falling down to the 16, Clemson new to the field as a 9, Texas Tech down to a 5, Louisville up to a 6, Marquette up to an 11, Michigan State up to a 3, Winthrop up to a 14, and then Stephen F. Austin down to a 15. Then if we take a look here at the bubble, last 4 byes are Virginia Tech, Oklahoma, Marquette, and Purdue, which Oklahoma was supposed to open their season against Florida on Wednesday, but they had some COVID stuff going on with their team, so they're going to have to back out of that. Not sure when they're going to start the season. Last 4 in are Maryland, Syracuse, Arkansas, and BYU. First 4 out are Minnesota, Colorado, Miami, and NC State. And then the next 4 out are Arizona, Dayton, Ole Miss, and SMU. So then if we take a look over here at the bracketology, I will be giving my predictions for the tournament based off of that bracketology. So at first we'll have Gonzaga obviously beating the winner of Fairleigh Dickinson and Texas Southern. Then we'll have Richmond, who just beat Kentucky, beat LSU. Ohio State, I think, will hold on there against Loyola Chicago, though I would love to see Loyola Chicago pull off the upset there, have another Rambler run through the NCAA tournament. Then Shaka Smart actually has hair now for Texas. That was a pretty funny thing over the course of the weekend, which I do think that Texas would beat Vermont. Then I'm going to go with an upset pick here. I'm going to go with Maryland beating Syracuse and then beating Florida. West Virginia will be able to beat Murray State there. Then UCLA, I think, will fall to Memphis. Memphis did not really have a good weekend, but they had a better weekend than UCLA. I'm just not impressed with UCLA. I mean, it's the start of the season, but they did have a bad weekend in my eyes. Then we have Iowa beating Akron. Then we'll have Gonzaga beating Richmond to move on to the Sweet 16. Then we'll have Ohio State falling to Texas. Texas moving on as the 4. And we'll also have West Virginia moving on as the 3, and then Iowa moving on as the 2, which there's a lot of chalk so far in this region, but I mean, it's one region. We still have 3 to go after it. Then we're going to have Gonzaga end up beating Texas. Then we're going to have Iowa moving on past West Virginia. And you know what? I'm going to go with the National Player of the Year contender, with Luka Garza and Iowa moving on here past Gonzaga. Mark Few just can't get it done in the tournament. He's made it to the national championship game a couple times, but he has just not won the big one yet. I think Iowa will move on here as the 2 seed into the Final 4 out of Region 1. Then we'll go over here to Region 2, where Baylor will end up beating the winner of Colgate and Norfolk State. Indiana, I think, will lose to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, as I mentioned, they did beat Villanova. No reason to doubt them at this point. Then we'll have Florida State moving on past the winner of Arkansas and BYU, which I think would be Arkansas. Then Creighton. You know what? I'm going to go with my first upset pick. I'm going to go here with New Mexico State as the 13 seed, moving on past Creighton as the 4. Then we're going to have North Carolina beat Oklahoma. Illinois with Ayo Dosunmu will be able to beat Wright State. Then we're going to go with Rutgers here, moving on past UConn, and then Houston moving on past UC Irvine. Then we're going to have Baylor moving on here past Virginia Tech. New Mexico State, why not let it fly? Why not go with an upset bid into the Sweet 16? We're going to have the 13 seed New Mexico State Aggies moving on to there. Then Illinois with Iota and Sumu will move on past North Carolina. Then Houston will move on past Rutgers. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we will have the Cinderella run come to an end here with Baylor moving on. But then I'm going to go with Illinois moving on here as the 3 seed. Houston was looking really impressive with Quentin Grimes, and I think they have one more player. I just can't remember what his name is. But either way, I think Illinois will be able to get the victory there, which sets up a 1 versus 3 here in the Elite Eight. Baylor and Illinois, and you know what? I'm going to go with Baylor moving on here. They looked pretty good this past weekend, and they have a huge matchup with Gonzaga coming this weekend, so it'll be really fun to watch that. Then we'll go down here to Region 3 where we have Duke moving on past Hofstra. As much as I don't want to admit it, I think that Duke will end up winning that one. Then we're going to have St. Louis here moving on past Alabama. Alabama did not look good against Stanford last night. Then we're going to have Western Kentucky pulling off the upset here, 12-5. They looked really good against Memphis and gave West Virginia a run for their money. I think that they can pull off the 12-5 upset there. Then Kentucky, I think, will move on here past Georgia State. Then we're going to have Arizona State moving on past Purdue, Virginia moving on past Liberty, San Diego State moving on past Providence, and then Wisconsin moving on past Siena. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we will have Duke moving on past St. Louis. Then I'm going to go with another upset pick here as much as I want to go with my Kentucky Wildcats. They did not look too good against Richmond. They did not make a single three-pointer, and Western Kentucky was looking good throughout the course of their weekend games. And I mean, it's early in the season. Why not go with an upset pick here? I mean, it's not going to matter too much here in a couple months, but why not go with Western Kentucky here moving on as the 12 seed to the Sweet 16, beating Kentucky? For all you people who say I'm a Kentucky homer, there you go. I'm going to have an upset there with Western Kentucky over Kentucky. And then I'm also going to go with an upset here with Arizona State and Remy Martin upsetting Virginia. Virginia, I mean, I just don't know what's going on with them. They just can't get it done in the tournament. Obviously, they can't get it done in the beginning of the college basketball season either. We'll see what happens with them, but now they are down to a 3 seed after starting off as a consensus 1 seed in the preseason. And we'll have Wisconsin here moving on past San Diego State. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, why not let it fly with Western Kentucky with Charles Bassey pulling off the 12-1 upset. Then we are going to have Arizona State as the 6th seed move on here past Wisconsin. And then we are going to have Arizona State move on to the Final Four. I almost picked Western Kentucky. But Arizona State as the 6th seed moving on to the Final Four. I really wanted to put Western Kentucky in there, but I just couldn't do it. But then over here in Region 4, we will have Villanova moving on past Eastern Washington. Stanford, I think, will be able to beat Clemson. Texas Tech, I think, will be able to hold off there against UNC Greensboro. Then we're going to have Tennessee beat South Dakota State. Louisville will be able to hold off against Marquette. Michigan State will beat Winthrop. Seton Hall, I think, can get the victory there against Michigan. I know Juwan Howard and Isaiah Livers for Michigan had a really heated debate there on the sideline in their game. I can't remember who they faced. I think they won this past weekend, but it was just weird to see. Then we have Kansas here moving on past UNF Austin. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we'll have Villanova here moving on past Stanford. Texas Tech, I think, will be able to get the 5-4 slight upset over Tennessee. Michigan State will hold off Louisville there in the 3-6, and then Kansas will beat Seton Hall. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we'll have Villanova falling to Tech. I don't know. I'm pretty split on this. I'm actually going to go with Villanova here moving on. I almost picked the upset there, but just couldn't do it. But then we'll have Kansas moving on past Michigan State, which we have the two big Champions Classic games tonight. We have Duke versus Michigan State and Kentucky versus Kansas. I'll be watching both of them. It'll be interesting to see how the teams perform in both. We'll see where the teams are at this point in the season. I'm expecting Duke to beat Michigan State and then Kansas to beat Kentucky, but you never know. But then for a spot in the Final Four, we will have Villanova moving on here past Kansas, which sets up the Final Four matchup of Iowa and Villanova, which I will go with Iowa. And then we have Baylor and Arizona State, which I will go with Baylor. Then I think I had this exact championship game in the last bracketology, but I'll switch it up here and go with Baylor winning the national championship as the number 2 overall seed. As a number 1 seed on the seed line, I'll go with Baylor there, returning a ton of people from last year, looking really good so far. I think that they can get the job done there and beat Iowa. So there we have it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did for more bracketology content. Let me know your guys' own thoughts and predictions in the comment section below, and I will see you all later.